Bespoke polygon charts, square bump chart, and this is what it looks like. We've seen a typical line version of this, where you have lines indicating first, second, third place or the value. What we are going to do is draw this out in polygons. The key thing to notice is the white lines that separates each of the containers or each of the columns. Each of the columns represents a month, and you can see the starting value and where it's going to in the next month. But we are going to build this in Tableau, believe it or not. So I hope you're ready. Let's have some fun and let's open up Tableau Desktop. So as always, we are going to get started by loading in our sample superstore data source. So let's click on Microsoft Excel. Let's double click on the superstore data source. Let's take orders and let's drag this in to our query panel. Have a look at the data. However, we're not quite ready yet to go into Sheets. We want to apply some data densification to the data source itself. So what we're going to do is open up our logical table to view the physical table. As you've noticed in our exercises, sometimes we use internal, sometimes we use external. It's good to shake things up a little bit. So with our physical table view, let's go into a spreadsheet editor. I want us to create a very simple model. I want us to type path, 1 and 6. That's all. For our square bump charts, we need 6 points. Let's copy this information. Let's go back into Tableau and paste that information in. So once it's pasted in, you'll see an error. Do not worry. Let's go down to create join calculation. Let's type in 1. Click OK. On the other side, let's do the same thing. Create join calculation. Type in 1 and then click OK. So this is performing a Cartesian join between our data set and our model. So for every row in the data set, we're going to have 2 rows now. One with path equal to 1 and one with path equal to 6. Let's rename sheet 1 to model. And with this done, we are ready to start building our data visualization. So let's click on sheet 1. Now, what I want us to do is to create an initial parameter. This will be used to control the size of the actual bar. So let's create a new parameter. Let's call this at bar height. And let's give this a value of 0.5. Perfect. Now we are going to do our typical data densification. We are going to right click on path. We are going to create a bin by going to create, selecting bins. Here I just want to type the value 1. This should give us 6 individual points that we can play with. Lastly, let's create our index. This time, let's just leave it as index. We don't need to -1. We're perfectly fine as it is. Let's click OK. Now, as we are building a square bump chart which will cover individual months of a year, I want to extract the month. So let's right click on order date, go to create, calculated field, and I want us to call this order date month name. In this, I want us to type date name, month, and order month. That's it, nice and simple. Let's click OK. Now, just to show the data onto the screen, I want to take order date and start building out our visualization so you can get a grasp of how we're building this. Let's take that into columns. This is pretty much as we would expect. Now I want to take index and I want to drop that onto columns as well. To make things more interesting, we are going to work with polygons, but for now let's go to lines. I also want us to click on the color, and under marker I want us to select all. That will give us a little dot when we go about drawing our lines. Now I want us to take path bin. I want us to drop this onto rows. I want us to right click on this pill and ensure that show missing values is selected. If not, tick this. If it is already ticked, perfect. Now I want us to drag this onto the path mark. I now want us to right click on index, go to compute using, and select path bin. As you can see, we have 6 points. That's what we are going to play with. The first 2 points will represent the value of the current month. The third point will either go up or down depending if it's a rise or decrease in ranking. And the other 3 points will be bent around to draw our data visualization. You'll see what I mean as we proceed. So now that we have some basic structure, I want us to add our data into this. To start merging our data densification with our data set. We'll start by creating a TC cells. So create a new calculated field. Call this TC cells. Windows. Sum of cells. But this time, because we are multiplying our data source, because we're using data source level data densification, we need to divide by 2 because we've performed that Cartesian join. Now I want us to create a few extra calculations. I'm going to talk you through it. Firstly, it's going to be TC rank. We are doing a bump chart after all, and I want us to write the following: rank unique TC cells. Nice and easy. This will give us the rank based on our cells value. Let's click OK. I now want us to create an additional calculation, and we are going to call this TC next rank. Here we are going to use a lookup calculation where we are going to look up the next rank value. So we can actually see what the rank is in January, and we could also, within January, look forward to see what February is. This is going to be quite important for us. You can see we're building this up, and now I want us to build our X and Y calculation. So right now we've just demonstrated, but let's build our X and Y calculation, shall we? So firstly, create calculated field. Let's create our X because that's going to be quite simple and standard, and we're not going to manipulate this much at all. We're just going to say if index is less than 4, then index else 7 minus index. What this is going to do is give the value of 1 to 3 and then 3 to 1. Therefore, one side it will be increasing in numbers and then it will be decreasing, so it will give us a nice shape. You'll see this in action very shortly. Let's click OK. Now the Y is going to be a lot more complicated, but let's walk through this. If index, i.e. the points, if you look at what we're seeing at the moment, we have 6 points. If index is equal to 1 or index is equal to 2, then we are going to put our points at the rank position. Nice and easy. Else, if index, once we hit the third point, we are then going to put the point at the next rank. I hope this makes sense. So whether it's up or down, we are going to draw that position there. Else, if index is equal to 4, then we are going to say next rank plus some height. So as we bend around, we're going to add some height to this. Finally, if index is equal to 5 or index is equal to 6, then DC rank, what was the rank of this month? Add it some height. Now this might look complicated right now, but the first 2 points will be here. Imagine the first 2 points will be stable. Then the third point would either be up or down depending on the rank. The next point will be moved backwards to 3. Remember, we're going up in numbers and then back down again. But then we're going to add some height to it. And then we are going to return to TC rank, which was what we originally had, and also have some height. Now let's click OK. But first, have a look at this. Pause it if you need to. Go through the formula in your head, because this is the most complicated part of this data visualization. The rest is pretty smooth sailing from here. Let's click OK. Now we can actually start building out our visualization. But what I want us to do is take away index, because that was just there to allow us to explore our data. Let's take X. Let's bring that onto columns. Let's take Y. Let's also bring that onto rows. And now what I want us to do is take region and drop that onto color. I want us to right click on X, go to compute using, and select path bin. I also want us to do the exact same thing with Y. So right click on the Y pill, go to compute using, and select path bin. As you can see, it's not quite what we want at this moment in time. Let's move this out of the way. But that is fine for now. Let's fit width just to make life look a bit easier. So it might look crazy for now, but now we just need to adjust our table calculation to get the effect that we want. So let's do this now. With X we don't need to do anything, but with Y, let's right click and go to edit table calculation. Index is fine, we don't need to modify that. However, with rank we do. With rank we just want region. Ooh, that already looks better, doesn't it? Let's make the entire view. Already we can see something. However, as you can see with the points, we have point 1, 2, 3. So this is the current rank. Then we're going to add some height to it and then move backwards. This is the calculation we wrote. However, it's not going up or down. That's what we wanted. So what I want us to do is change the nested calculation to next rank. And let's now select across. As you can see, it's looking a lot more interesting now. And actually, the data visualization is pretty complete. All we have to do now is modify some of the cosmetics, and then we are golden. But firstly, what I want us to do is finally change our mark type from line to polygon. That looks a lot better now. I want us to double click our x-axis, and now I want us to fix these. from 1 to 3. How do you like them apples? Now, we're going to keep on building on this. I want us to double click on the y-axis and I want us to reverse it. Just remember, rank number 1 is the highest. Let's actually also remove 0, because we don't want that. Let's take up more space in our visualization. Looking good. What I want us to do now is right click on the Y header. Let's remove the headers. Let's remove the X header as well. Don't worry about the null. The only reason that's appearing is because after December there's nothing else. So let's just hide indicator. Let's hide the month name because we don't really need that. So right now, as you can see, it's looking pretty good. And hopefully it's making a lot more sense. What I want us to do now is to apply a little bit of formatting. So right click on the canvas, go to format. Underneath format lines, let's remove our grid lines and zero lines. That serves no real purpose. Under format borders, let's get rid of our, I would say let's get rid of our row dividers. Doesn't really do much. For the column dividers, let's make that white. So now you can really see how this works. Let's make this fit width. And let's see if we could play with the height a bit. There we go. If we want, let's find TC cells. Let's drag that onto the tooltips. So now you can actually see the value. Actually, let's click on the tooltips. Let's remove the stuff that we don't want. We don't want the X and the Y. We literally want the order date, month, the region, and the cells. So now we click on this, you can see the value. You could also see the dips and the drops. Let's rename our sheet as squared bump chart. Let's have some more fun here. Let's actually see if animations work. It doesn't work on polygons yet, but there might be some cool effects that we can achieve. So with animation switched on, let's take the order date, drop it onto filter. Let's filter for year. Let's select 2020. And let's show the filter. As you remember, I like a single value list. So this is the interesting thing. Unfortunately, polygons are not animated yet, but hopefully it will come to pass in the future. However, we can still have a little bit of fun. Let's keep a hand on control and let's actually copy our X so we have 2 of them. On the second X, let's change this to line. Let's remove the markers. And now let's dual axis this together. And finally, synchronize. I know it's looking a bit crazy at the moment. But now what I wanted to do is take our polygons and take the opacity down to 80. Let's hide the headers. Now we can have some real fun. Now if we change, because lines do change, lines are animated in Tableau at the moment, we can create this very, very cool effect. So, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. The key thing here is that we took our data, we brought in a model which allowed us to create data densification with 6 points. For each of the columns, or the date, month, we basically drew in the rank and a movement towards the future rank. And this is what we have. So if you want to revisit the tutorial, I hope by building this step by step, it makes a lot more sense to you by explaining the calculations. You can see and start thinking about how you can do this with your own next bespoke data visualization. So I hope you had fun and see you in the next lesson.